Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our morning shir in Chassidut, in learning Chassidus. Now we're learning the Chovot HaLevavot based on the Shara Bitachon, which is the gate in how to enter into trust in Hashem. So thank you for joining us. And the whole idea of Bitachon in Hashem, as we said in the introduction, is very much connected to the teachings of Chassidus, which helps us clearly strengthen our bitachon, our trust in Hashem. In yesterday's class, the Rabbi Bahya, who was the author of the Shara of the Chovot HaLevavot, he explains 7 points in which a person should ponder, and when these 7 points you have them, then you can enter into having this secure relationship with Hashem, bitachon. And he sort of puts it into the garment, if you will, of how you can compare this idea between two individuals. He doesn't necessarily talk yet about the relationship between us as human beings with Hashem. In today's class, he's going to explain how obviously this applies only to the relationship between a human being and Hashem. So we're going to review in short what we learned yesterday, and then we'll continue. Today is the second class of the Shara Bitachon. Yesterday, he mentioned 7 points. What are the 7 points that a person should realize that only then one can nurture a relationship of bitachon with Hashem? Number 1, the one that you are trusting needs to be compassionate and loving. Number 2, you have to make sure that he does not, you have to make sure that the individual does not ignore you, does not make you oblivious, is not oblivious to you. Number 3, you have to make sure the individual is strong and no one can win over him. Then you feel secure to put your trust in him. Number 4, that you have to know that your friend who you are entrusting is going to bring a true benefit to you, who you're putting your trust in him. Number 5, it has to be an individual that is, number 5, we learned yesterday, that it needs to be an individual that you are connected with him from the beginning, when you were born, even before then, forever. Number 6, you have to have a feeling that all of your subjects are totally given over to him, and no one will be able to damage it because you know that it's in good hands. That's the title. With your hand. I hope you can hear me now. Esther, can you please type into the chat if you can hear me? Okay, let's move on. And we are talking about the 7th point that a person should think about as you enter into this relationship with Hashem. So when you want to entrust someone, you have to realize that the person should be very generous, very kind and giving. And now we're going to continue. Now the Rabbi Bahya is going to teach us in Chovot HaLevavot how all of these things obviously apply only by Hashem. Just one moment, please. Okay, beautiful. The next paragraph begins, V'ka'asher nachkor. When a person will contemplate into all of the above, and you will realize that you have to carefully choose whom you are trusting, you will figure out that all of the above 7 conditions are not found by human beings. And they are found by Hashem, the Almighty, blessed be He. First of all, Shehu merachem al habriot. Hashem is compassionate over the creations. Like it says, Rachom v'chanon Hashem. Hashem is compassionate and gracious. And in another verse, in Yonah, it says, Va'ani lo achus al ninvei ha'ir ha'gdolah. Hashem is concerned, Hashem is worried even for the city of sinners. And He does not, that's number 1. Number 2, we said that he has to be thinking about the individual who he's caring about, and he cannot be oblivious. Now Hashem does not turn a blind eye from His creations. Like we say in chapter 121 of the Tehillim, Lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisroel. Hashem does not sleep nor slumber. He always guards Am Yisrael. Then we said that he has to be wise and strong with tactics. That's Hashem. Chacham levav v'amitz koach mi hiksha elav yishalem. And it also says that you, Hashem, have the greatness and the strength and the beauty and victory and glory. So we see that Hashem is the ultimate strong one. So you want to trust someone? Guess what? Hashem is the only one and the correct one. Then we said number 4, this is totally obvious. We said that you have to trust only someone who is not sort of. You have to choose someone who is with you, who has been with you from the beginning and will forever be with you. There's no such human being that can really do that. That can be with you and can guarantee to be with you forever. That's Hashem. Like it says in the Torah, Halo hu avicha kanecha, hu ascha v'yichonenecha. In the second to last portion of Torah Azinu, that He is your Father who has acquired you. He made you and prepared you. And then we say in the Tehillim, chapter 22, Alecha nismachti mibeten mimei imi atagozi. Beautiful words, poetic words from King David. I have always relied on you since I was in the womb of my mother. Number 5, we learned that His benefit is so great that no one can make any damage to the person. So, who can protect us in such a way? Who can guarantee us that they will overlook and protect us in such a great way? Only Hashem. As it says, Mize amar vatehi, Hashem lo tziva, mipi elyon lo tetze haraot v'atov. Hashem, whatever He decides, that's what's going to happen. No one else can have any impact on Hashem, God forbid, against Hashem's will. And then finally we said that the individual whom you are trusting in needs to be very generous and giving and kind. Here's the verse that we say in the Tehillim, we say it in davening every day a couple of times. Tov Hashem lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Hashem is good for everyone, and His compassion is on His creations. Ve'amar, and it says in the pasuk, Noten lechem lechol basar, ki le'olam chasto. He gives bread. In other words, He sustains every single individual, for His chesed is forever. And here's the punchline: Poteach et yadecha umasbia lechol chai ratzon. Open your hands, so to speak. Hashem doesn't have hands, but that's the title of this chorus. We are in good hands. We are in His great hands. We are in secure hands. So we say, Hashem, open your hands, so to speak. Umasbia lechol chai ratzon, and satiate every living being according to your will. And so this is a very powerful verse, and this is a verse that when we think about this, it is a segula for parnasa. It is a special bracha, a special blessing for livelihood. When we realize that everything comes from Hashem, and we ask Hashem to open His hands and give us a shefa, a tremendous amount of sustenance, in a kind way, in a loving way, so we know that Bezrat Hashem will provide us with that. Because we know that Hashem ultimately does provide everyone with all of their needs. So what do we have until now? We've gone through all of the 7 points in short that we learned about yesterday, and we showed how all of these are only by Hashem. Some of them only, and some of them mainly. If so, is there a question? Is there a doubt in whom we should have trust? Real trust, real bitachon is only by Hashem. If all of these 7 points are a condition, and you think about what they really mean, then Hashem is the ultimate one in whom we should have bitachon. Let's move on in the last couple of lines before the end of chapter 2. He says, really, our intellect demands that we should have ultimate bitachon on Hashem, even if we didn't have these proofs that we just mentioned from the verses from the Psukim. Because the 7 great advantages are altogether only by Hashem, only by the Creator, and not by man. And the verses that we brought are only in order that we should be able to have some kind of document, some kind of proof, some kind of mention of these things in the Torah. After all, we have to remember that everything begins and ends in the Torah. And even if something seems to be obvious, it seems to be logical, nevertheless, we do it, we believe it, we connect to it, not because of our intellect, because of our knowledge, rather because the Torah says so. We find this in a couple of places. First of all, when we crown Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, we quote verses in the Musaf prayer. We say the verses of how Hashem is the king. So one can ask, why do you need to have a proof? Everybody knows that Hashem is the king. Everybody knows that Rosh Hashanah is the time to crown Hashem. The answer is, it's not enough to crown Hashem because we think that Hashem should be our king. Rather, it's much stronger and much more authentic when we quote the Torah. Yes, the Holy Torah, where Hashem Himself writes in the Torah that He is the king. Then, if so, then it's much more. It's much more grounded. It's much stronger. It's a much stronger statement when we say, Hashem, we want you to be the king, our king, because look, it says in the Torah. It says in the Torah is the source. You know, the Rabbi came out with a campaign in the 80s. It really started in the 70s, but mainly in the 80s, that every person should have a mashpia. Every person should have a guide. In the 70s, it was that every community should have a mashpia. He even said that every block should have a mashpia. We have a a lot of Chabadniks, a lot of Jews. And I remember when I was in yeshiva years ago, and I went over to one of my teachers, and I wanted him to be my personal mashpia, Baruch Hashem, for many happy years until today. And I was I was concerned that maybe he would be too humble, and he would say, no, that's not for me. So I opened up, I brought with me a Sikha of the Rebbe, the talk of the Rebbe, printed in Likutei Sichos, volume 29, and in the back it's a Sikha for the Parsha of Devarim, I believe from 1986. And over there, the Rebbe says clearly that every person should appoint to himself a mashpia. So I knew that the Rebbe's words are very precious to him. So I said, look, Rebbe, my teacher, my rabbi, I would like to appoint you to be my mashpia, as the Rebbe says in the Sikha, that the mashpia is a channel through which the Rebbe's brachas come to you. And of course, he couldn't say no. So Baruch Hashem, I locked him in till today. Baruch Hashem. And so when you have something which is written black on white and a very, very powerful statement, then it makes it much more grounded. And then I want to share with you for a moment what the Rebbe says in one of his talks, that everything in the world comes from Torah. The Zohar says that the Torah is a blueprint for the world. There's a great rabbi, his name is Rabbi Vechter. He lives in Nachlat Har Chabad in Kiryat Malachi, in the south, and not far from Ashkelon. So he grew up, he's actually from Toronto, and he grew up for many years in the Satmar community in Williamsburg. And I have the zechut, the great zechut, to know his family very well. So when Rabbi Khan and Rabbi Korf, two great Hasidim who unfortunately passed away a few months ago, in the early 80s, they went to teach Hasidus to the Hasidim, Satmar and other Hasidim in Williamsburg. Unfortunately, they went through a very difficult, they were hurt very, very badly. Baruch Hashem, today things have changed a lot, and the Satmars are, in a great sense, are big fans of Chabad. In any case, Rabbi Yoel Khan once wanted to bring Rabbi Vechter to the Rebbe's Farbrengen. And this was his first encounter with the Rebbe, Rabbi Vechter's, to come and see the Rebbe and participate in the Farbrengen from the Rebbe. And before he went, I believe he expressed to Rabbi Khan, maybe he was just thinking to himself, but as far as I remember how he told me the story, he said, I don't understand why the Rebbe has to bring a source for everything he says. Even if he quotes the first verse in the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, in the beginning Hashem created the heaven and the earth. Why did the Rebbe have to write in the bottom, in the sources, Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1? Everybody knows that Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz is the first verse in the entire Torah. And when he came to the Rebbe's Farbrengen, he saw pure Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. And he saw how, and the Rebbe explained, like in the middle of the Farbrengen, all of a sudden the Rebbe started talking about this. And if a person will ask that why do we have to bring sources for every single thing, the answer is that everything is in the Torah. Even something so simple, quote unquote, as Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, we have to realize and understand and recognize that it is true, it's authentic, and where the source is in the Torah. Because the Torah is the source for everything we have. And the Torah gives us strength. So getting back to the Chovot HaLevavot, when we talk about all these logical 7 reasons why a person should have bitachon in Hashem, At the end of the day, it's really, the real reason is because of the psukim, the proofs that we have from the Torah. Let's finish off this chapter 2 in Chovot HaLevavot. When a person will think through this clearly, and his understanding will strengthen with the true chesed, the true kindness of the Creator, then he will entrust him. He will give himself over to Hashem's will, and he will accept upon himself Hashem's leadership. And he will not be concerned. Maybe Hashem will not judge him properly, and he will not be upset for what Hashem chose for him. As David HaMelech says, Kos Yeshuot Esa Uv'Shem Hashem Ekra. I will lift up a cup of salvation, and I will call out in the name of Hashem. And also it says, Tzarav Yagonim Tzau V'Shem Hashem Ekra. Also in the same chapter it says that, or maybe the chapter earlier, it says that even though David HaMelech found pain and suffering and agony, nevertheless he calls out the name of Hashem, because he realizes that Hashem is the ultimate, true, authentic being whom he can place his trust in. So we've learned today about how Hashem is truly the only one that we can truly put our full trust in. Thank you very much for joining us. Be'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow right here at 9:15. We look forward to seeing you again. And today is Tuesday, so Tuesday night, this evening at 7:30, we look forward to seeing you and all of your friends, Be'ezrat Hashem, for the special shiur on Hanukkah and what it means according to the teachings of Chassidus in English. All the best. Looking forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.